All right, well, good morning once again, everybody. If you're just now kind of trickling in, welcome to Feedback Friend or Foe. We're excited to have you guys joining us today with Rural Life at our virtual summer institute. Again, I see we've got 46 people so far in the summer month. So thanks you guys for being so devoted to your profession and wanting to learn more about feedback. We're excited to spend this time with you today. I'll be your host. I'm Candace, and I'm here to support the session presenter who I'll introduce shortly. I can offer technical assistance, and John is great in a pinch for that as well. And I'll share the session information at the end. Sometimes whenever we're in presentation mode like Linda is right now, it can be a little bit tricky monitoring chat. So I'll be sure to monitor chat. If you're throwing in a question or comment, like you can probably expect a comment or a response back from me. So please don't hesitate to use that chat to ask any questions or if you have any kind of technical need. At this time, I'll go ahead and introduce you to your session presenter, Linda.
Good morning, everyone. We're glad to have you with us. You've heard us already this morning on my little technical issues. So if I can have them, you can have them. So don't be nervous about talking up, speaking up, or using the microphone. As you can see, we're on the Zoom screen, and I know we're all very familiar with Zoom. We've had to use it enough this year. So anytime you want to unmute yourself and talk, please do so. I'd love to hear your voice and to see your lovely face if you'd like to show us your face. I apologize in advance in case you hear a puppy barking in the background. He's in his cage, which he absolutely hates. But in order for me to get anything done, he's going to have to be in that little cage. So I'll apologize in advance. So if you have any questions about where the Virtual Summer Institute materials are, go to the website, click under Find Your Session, click under it, and you'll see the materials, and you'll join the link here. And please feel comfortable. I've already spilled all my dirty laundry this morning, so please feel comfortable. And I just like for this to be a fun time to enjoy and learn something from one another. So please share anything that you might like to with us about feedback. So for today's learning objectives, we want to expand our definition of feedback. And we also want to examine some feedback strategies. You'll notice over there in the corner, you see a lovely tree. So whenever we're talking about the definition of feedback and feedback strategies, you'll see the tree in the corner. We're also going to analyze examples of authentic and effective feedback. And you'll see a bear in the corner when we're working on that, because sometimes that can be a bear. And the fourth one we're going to have today is we're going to explore some tech tools to help streamline the feedback process. And I put my favorite flower down there. I couldn't resist, the daisy. So for you, your own personal opinion, is feedback a friend, like this lovely teddy bear, or is it your foe? Like, I guess this is a wolf. I'm going to call it a wolf. So which is it for you? If you'll just put in the chat a 1 for it's your friend, or 2, it's your foe. And then Candace will kind of let me know what's going on there.
We've got some optimists in here and some realists. A lot of folks are like 1 and some are like both. Someone says yes, both at the same time. So they might be frenemies.
Yes, they're a great word for this, frenemies. I agree. Feedback can be both at any given time, I think. So thank you for being honest this morning. It's a little early to be this honest, but we'll be honest. Okay, so the journey begins. And whether you choose or whether you chose feedback as friend or foe, giving feedback is just one of those necessary tasks us educators have to do in this profession. So for us to understand the importance of effective feedback, we first have to know what it is. So let's begin the journey. So you will find a Jamboard that is going to be dropped in the chat for you. And on this Jamboard, if it will pull up for me, which looks like it's going to be cooperative, I think. Maybe. There we go. Feedback is in, this is a Jamboard, and I'm sure everyone knows what a Jamboard is. If you'll just pick one, go up here to one of the sticky notes, pick one, And then over here in the box, you can even pick your favorite color this morning. And what is feedback? In your own opinion, your own personal opinion, feedback is, how would you describe it? Constructive, formative, necessary. I like that. But hard to do in a quick and effective manner. So true. It is specific, encouraging. I think it's reflective, what you did right or wrong. I like that. Important information that is helpful. Necessary, but not always easy. Amen. Whoever said that. A tool to help teachers and students meet goals. It's communicative. It's formative. Honest assessment of the state of a thing. Oh, wow. It is a quick assessment of how the students are mastering the lesson standards, response to any type of assessment, time consuming. I was wondering if anybody was going to say that, because that's how I found it to be, very time consuming. It's a critical aspect of our process. So true. All of these are just so true. They really are. Helpful, but can be painful. Definitely. A guide for improvements in developing skills. I mean, wow. Lots of good things about feedback here. So looking at all of these, and let's go back to my original things. So here we have some what is feedback. So feedback, it provides information about how a person's doing as they work towards a goal. So we all have a goal, or all of our students, we hope they have a goal, and we want to give them good information to help them achieve their goal. It supports the learning process. It gives students, helps them to build new knowledge, and it increases their skills. And it helps students identify what they can improve on in order to reach their goals. So, but to fully understand the impact of feedback, let's look at a little research. Feedback is not advice, praise, or evaluation. Feedback is information about how we're doing in our efforts to reach a goal. And this is by Wiggins. He is famous for his understanding by design. Lost my thought for a minute. And he's also going to be in what we're talking about as we go through here, the 7 effective keys for feedback. But, you know, feedback's, I shouldn't say, attaboy, good job. You know, it's not praise. It's not evaluation. It's not advice. It's information about our efforts. So we need to be specific. So if students know the classroom is a safe place to make mistakes, they're more likely to use feedback for learning. Think about your own classroom and the number of students that you have, and some of you may have 150 or more students. It's sometimes hard to make those relationships that make it comfortable for people to be able to say what they feel, or to be able to give that feedback that's going to be effective. But if we can get a relationship with those students, it becomes much more a much more easier path or freeway for us to be able to give them the feedback that they need. Also, effective feedback occurs during the learning while there's still time to act on it. So I don't know how many of you ever had students where at the end of a writing assessment, you put their grade up there, put some comments on it, and they look at the grade and they toss it in the trash can. That's happened to me on more than one occasion. And I gave them feedback along the way, but they didn't care about that very end feedback. They just wanted to see the grade. So it's really important that we give them feedback while they're in the learning process so that they have time to act on it and improve if that's what's required. Students need to know their learning target, the specific skill they're supposed to learn, or else feedback is just someone telling them what to do. And how many middle schoolers or high schoolers or even little kids at this point like to be told what to do? So it's not telling someone what to do. It's very targeted, it's specific, and it helps them learn in some way. So let's reflect for a second. And I've given you another Jamboard, and this time what I have on this Jamboard is effective feedback. So we've talked about a little bit of feedback a second ago. So now let's look at how would you describe effective feedback based on what we just talked about. Again, I put a Jamboard up, so if you wouldn't mind just doing the same thing again, and let's see what surfaces. It needs to be specific, you're right. So very as specific as possible. It provides an opportunity for setting goals. I believe it could. Yes, it's progressive. I like that word. Specific, it offers you next steps. It's constructive and specific. It provides information about how students are reaching their goal. Prompts change. Nice word. I like that. Effective feedback is prescriptive to each student's needs. Very nice. It is specific and it's ongoing. It's specific. It offers next steps. It offers suggestions for improvement, as well as points out what has been done well. Yeah, everybody needs to be told what they're doing well, along with that prescriptive bit of feedback. Has a timeline attached to goals, specific steps for improvement. Look at the bottom corner, allows for students to grow in their learning. And that's really what we're trying to do with feedback. I mean, all of these are wonderful, and it does provide us with that feedback. Once we've got that feedback, it allows us to grow. And as the top orange one says, it's goal driven. And every student, of course, we need them all to have a goal so that they have something to work towards and to get better as they go. It's also constructive and tailored for that student. It's not cookie cutter. It's for that particular student. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Some good information. So what are the characteristics of effective feedback? So this is according to Wiggins, and some of the others that we talked about in the previous slides. So effective feedback focuses on the task rather than the student. It provides information to enhance the learning rather than just information about accuracy of responses. It is clear and specific. It's not too complex. It has to be understood. Offered in manageable amounts. It's linked to learning goals. It is delivered when there's still time to use it, and it's tailored to meet students' varying needs. So all of these are good characteristics of effective feedback that we need to try to remember to use when we are in the process of giving students good feedback. So what's the rationale? So why should we be using feedback with students? Why should it be an integral part of our classroom and professional practice? Well, one of the reasons is it increases student learning, and that's what we're all hoping for. It also increases their motivation and engagement. If I give them good, meaningful feedback that will help them to achieve the goal that we've set, then they're going to be motivated to do something about it, and I believe more engaged. It helps students build on their current knowledge base. So it's like building a house. You don't start at the roof, you start on the foundation, and you start building skills as you go. So it does build on their current knowledge base. It will promote reflection. they're going to have to think about the feedback you gave them and how they can change what they're doing or change what they've done, their product, to make it fit that. So they're going to have to think. It gives students alternate strategies to help students reach understanding. So it's not, as we say, cookie cutter, it's different for everyone. And it provides a connection between the teacher and the student. The more I can engage with my student professionally, I believe the better the relationship that we have and the easier for the engagement. So now we've talked about establishing that definition, expanding on it a little bit. Feedback types and strategies. A bear is my favorite animal, so that's the bear. So there are 3 avenues of feedback. There are student to student, or student to teacher. I can't read this morning. Student to student and teacher to student. So we're going to look at these 3 avenues of feedback. And Candace is dropping a Padlet in the chat for you. She's a great helper, and I'm so appreciative of her this morning. So on this Padlet, once mine pops up, you can see across the top, we have the same 3 types or avenues of feedback: student to student, student to teacher, and teacher to student. And under each, you'll find videos or articles that you can look at to tell you more about that particular pathway. Okay. And over here to the left, here's what I'd like for you to do. I'd like for you to choose one activity from each box or post from each column. And if you're an early finisher, you can do more than one if you'd like to. And then I'd like for you to rate how you felt about that particular resource. You just click on it, or you're supposed to be able to click on it and give it a rating. I did this one, okay? And you can give it whatever you feel it is, and then just post it. And then, and the rating system is: 1, you're very unlikely to use it, or you completely disagree with that resource, or you're very likely to use it and you agree with that resource. So that's the second thing I'd like for you to do. And then the third thing, after you have looked at it, I'd like for you and rated it, I'd like for you to respond to it. How would you personally use this in your practice? Elaborate on your why. Why would you or why wouldn't you want to use it? If you gave it a poor rating, then why wouldn't you want to use this particular piece of information? And then as we continue through this, if you have time, then you're welcome to look through others' responses, and you can respond to what they've said about that particular post. So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes, which I want to give you plenty of time to be able to look at it, because there's some great information in here. And on the participants guide, there are things that if you want to take notes on there, you can, just for memory's sake, to help you remember things. That's what I need. And I'll be quiet now and give you 10 minutes to meander.
John, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm right here.
I'm just wondering, I think that we might have one or two folks that maybe are having just some computer issues. Maybe it's on their end or not. If they choose to leave the session, can they jump back into this? Will you be able to admit them?
There's no admission. They just need the link that they used originally
Okay,
to join. Now, I have deleted the links just now off of the website, okay? But if they've got their invite when they registered, then they can use that to jump back in.
okay, thank you.
Or we can make it available in the chat if you'd like the link to it. You want me to do that?
If you don't mind, and like I said, our participant may just choose to hang out for the next. I think we just got 2 more minutes or so on this activity, but yeah.
Okay. All right. That's the link to the meeting that we are in right now.
Thank you.
Okay. You
You have about a minute left. Can't make it stop. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed some of those resources. There are some really good ones. So let's look at what some of you thought about this. The tag resource, I've already kind of looked at it. That it seems like you all really like this idea. It's something that you might try. I think I would have really liked this when I was in the classroom. I think this would have been something that my students would have enjoyed and would have gotten something really, really great from. So we had some peer editing. They been teaching a lot of years and found peer editing is one of the hardest to teach effectively. I agree. I think you have to set parameters out there for that to work well. And she loves the idea of doing one task card and getting plenty of time to reflect. Yes, I like that one as well. Feedback for students by students, using red light, yellow light, or green for students to indicate their level of understanding is super. I agree. They liked how this article addressed the fact that students have to be taught how to give effective feedback to each other. Otherwise, I agree with that, because otherwise students are just going to say, oh yeah, I really liked it. Oh, I didn't see anything wrong. They really have to be taught how to give effective feedback. So modeling on your part would be very helpful for that. There's just so much good information in that particular column. And then student to teacher. Let's see. On the second one, student surveys, this person says that they have used them in their classroom and they feel like they're beneficial. They let them know what they're doing that's working and how they can help students more. The next person says they're definitely a fan of student surveys, and they're able to share their opinion, but it's, as this person said, low pressure. And if you could do it anonymously, even better. I like the prompts in this article for getting feedback from students on that third particular one, teacher report card. And someone else says there are some good tips. And on the youth board, youth on board, the benefits of students teacher feedback in the classroom. This one's a challenge for me, but I think it would benefit my class. Sometimes that's where we grow, is when the challenges, as the people who I work with can attest to me. How to ask your students for feedback. Good advice that explains the why something is needed to remember to do something good to do in the future, and really brings light to students wanting to clear expectations for learning and reflecting. I think students really crave that, and given the right circumstances, in the right setting, I think it's perfect. Teacher to student. This is the one that most people are most familiar with and do most often. But in the cult of pedagogy, rubrics are used, and they're a great way of sharing the expectations that we have for students ahead of time. So true. This little video, which is really short, and if you didn't have time, you might want to go back and look at it. Feedback helps us all grow. It does. It hurts sometimes, but it helps us all grow. It's a great way to redirect a teacher's subjective feedback. This was on replace feeling words and said, I feel that if you added more adjectives or whatever. And we didn't have time, didn't get time for that one. And the last one, also from Cult of Pedagogy. I love the idea of waiting to provide students with a grade so that they focus on the feedback. Gives them time to actually reflect and to do something with that feedback before you give them that grade. And then text evidence feedback, and it looks like no one had time to get to that one. So these resources will be available on the materials page. So anytime, feel free to go back and look at those. I think there's some hidden gems in there. Thank you for participating. I do appreciate your time and your effort here. So now let's get into the reason why we've done all this other stuff and evaluations. Here's a snapshot of one part of the teacher evaluation. So looking at those three former pathways or avenues that we just went through, if you'll notice on the TN team rubric, you have to give feedback. You have to give oral, written feedback. They want to see that. They want to see that it's given frequently and during guided practice, not just at the end when they're getting their grade. They want to see the teacher circulate and helping students at the moment instead of all that, instead of just written feedback. They'd also like to see feedback from students, that it's regularly used to help adjust and monitor our own teacher instruction. And it's good that the teacher engages the students in giving specific high quality feedback to one another. So that peer-to-peer feedback again, it's just a great learning tool for the person giving the feedback as well as the person receiving the feedback. So we want to keep this in mind if we want to get that 5 or significantly above when we're being evaluated, but not just for that. We want it because we want to use this because it's going to be helpful to the students, and it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to continue to build that relationship. And this past year, I believe relationships are so important in our work, and sometimes difficult to be able to really forge those relationships. But if we can build a relationship, I think it just makes so much difference in the student's learning. So there are benefits for the teacher to student, and this comes from the Education Hub. And they say that giving good feedback to students is one of the most powerful ways teachers can improve learning. One of the most powerful ways teachers can improve learning, just by giving feedback. Giving good feedback shows students where and how that they can improve. It helps them confirm, correct, fine-tune, or restructure their knowledge or beliefs. That good feedback can give them time for reflection in order for them to understand where they need to make their changes and make them really go somewhere and really make a difference. Good feedback can boost student motivation to improve and to develop more effective learning strategies. It helps students with self-regulation, goal setting, task planning, monitoring, and self-reflection. So all the good things that we want to see happening in the classroom with what's going on with feedback. So there are also benefits of student to teacher feedback. And this is something when I was in the classroom, I never thought about doing, was asking the students, well, what do you think about what we did here or here? I did ask on occasion when we did something out of the ordinary or special, I would ask them, well, what did you think about that? Would you like to do something like that again? But never in this particular way. So this is from the Code of Pedagogy, and it talks about increasing student engagement. We can find out what activities they like most and least, and that could help us better design our own lessons and in order to hopefully keep them better engaged. It can help with preventative discipline. If we learn more about the students' experiences, your class can go a long way toward improving that relationship you have with them. And that goes a long way for classroom management. Again, relationships. And I see this in every aspect of teaching, relationships. Differentiation. Grades and test scores don't tell the whole story, do they? A student who's getting excellent grades might be accomplishing only with tremendous effort and hard, long hours at home. And on the other hand, a student who normally turns in mediocre work might actually want more of a challenge. And if you ask the students about the work and get that type of feedback for yourself, then you would know better of how to find the work or design the lesson in such a way that it's going to fit all needs for all students. This next one I didn't think of, bully prevention, but after I read a little bit more, I really understood where it came in, because once students are given the opportunity to tell about their feelings and share their feelings with teachers in class, then they might be more apt to give you information on a little bit more personal note that might help them with a bullying issue or some other issues that are going on. And last of all, self-preservation. Think about schools and as educators being evaluated. I'd like to be able to keep my job, and so this is self-preservation. I want things to go well. I want to know what my students enjoy doing. I want to get to know them better so that I can be spot on when we're actually working together. And there are also benefits for the student-to-student feedback. This is from Huang and McCarthy. And they say that it empowers the students to serve as resources for each other. I think once you've done this for a while, that students can go to one another and ask, well, I read this and tell me what you think. How could we change this? How could I make it better? It also increases their students' understanding of their subject matter. This peer-to-peer feedback helps with, I'm going to gain knowledge from reading my peers' work. It exposes students to different approaches to an assignment. They don't know how all have to be done the same. It supports students to engage in self-reflection. I know we've said that quite a bit today. It improves the students' motivation to improve their own work. We've also said that. It supports students to develop critical thinking skills. and it supports students to improve their communication skills. So I think there are a lot of benefits for the student-to-student feedback. A couple of considerations when you're implementing this as peer-to-peer feedback is, all of these potential benefits of feedback can be realized without really having to increase the teacher workload. Research that another young lady and I were looking at, suggests that there are two considerations for implementing peer feedback in online learning. First, you want to think about how to support students to provide quality feedback by providing some structure, which is one of the things that was on the Padlet a little while ago, such as maybe a rubric or a form, which I've used when I was teaching. I had a form that they could fill out and check, or whatever it happened to be at the time. Another issue to consider is whether or not to make feedback anonymous. Research that we looked at suggested that students who give feedback of similar quality, whether they were anonymous or identified. So however students prefer to give it, or however you prefer for students to give the feedback, there is a place for it. Now, we talked about Wiggins a little bit earlier. Wiggins is considered an educational guru. As I said, he did the Backward by Design. I think I'm saying that correct. I could be wrong because I'm a little nervous, if you can't tell. And then we have, these are the things that we really focused our presentation on, are his 7 keys to effective feedback. So one is it's goal referenced. Anything that the students are doing, we need for them to have a goal. We need for them to be able to take action on that goal. So it needs to be goal referenced, and there needs to be actionable or some sort of actionable thing that they can do to achieve their goal. So effective feedback is also tangible and transparent. They need to be able to see it. They need to be able to understand it, and that may take a little bit more feedback, but we'll get there eventually. It is specific and useful. It's actionable. They can do something with it. It's understandable. It's user-friendly. I read yesterday where a teacher had said that they had been with this student all year long, and the student all year long kept making the same mistake. So the student came up at the end of the year and asked why she kept telling her that her work was vague. And the teacher was, vague, and she looked at her paper and it wasn't vague, it was vague. So the student just didn't understand what the teacher was trying to say. So it needs to be user-friendly, very user-friendly. Effective feedback is timely. It's given while working so that it's fresh on their minds. It's ongoing during formative assessment so that they can better achieve their goal. They can act on it. And last of all, effective feedback is consistent. It's stable, it's accurate, it's trustworthy. Okay, and there are, according to the Education Hub, there are 3 stages of feedback and 3 operations of feedback. So the first of the 3 stages of feedback are, they have to know the learning intentions. So we want to feed up. We need to give them clear goals as to what the feedback is for. Then feedback monitors their progress. And if we want to feed forward, that's the next steps, what they can do to acquire and improve. And then there are 3 operations of feedback. We have 1, the product level feedback. It's given and aimed at the product, and it's given immediately. We have process level, which is the student has completed a task and it's transferable, and it's most effective when there's a little bit of wait time between the product and the feedback. And last of all, there's a personal level is not task related. Praise, if I'm saying attaboy, good job, the personal level should not really play into the feedback that we give them to achieve a goal. So, and it can also be fear inducing. If I'm talking to a class and I say, oh, Johnny did a wonderful job on, and Johnny's really shy and timid and backward and he doesn't like to be recognized, then is that going to make him more comfortable or less comfortable? I was that kid. It makes you very uncomfortable So don't do it. So now that we've done all of this, we are ready. Let's look at some examples of actual feedback that has been given. So Candace, I'm going to put you to work here. In the chat, as we're going through these particular pieces of feedback, I would like for you to look at, would you keep it? It's awesome. Hashtag awesome. So type hashtag awesome if you would keep it. If you think it's terrible feedback based on everything that we've been talking about today, or just your own personal experience, do hashtag cut. And then we'll just see where it goes from there. So here's feedback number 1. You need more examples in your report. Taking all the things we've talked about into consideration today, would you say that's hashtag awesome or hashtag cut? What are you seeing, Candace?
I see cut. I see a lot of cuts.
Yeah, I mean, how many? When I read these, I'm so guilty of doing almost all of these that, I would say you need more examples in your report, or but that wasn't enough. I mean, for that student, they need you to be specific and tell them exactly what it is that they're missing in that report. Examples of what? Those students really need to know exactly what you say and what you mean by what you say. So is there a way that we could redeem this particular piece of feedback? I think it's redeemable. Would anybody like to? You can unmute and just talk as well. I'm sorry, I haven't already said that.
Linda, while they think about that, I'll pull Melissa's comment. She says, I'll say you need more examples, read the directions and the learning goals again. I really love that she's referring the students back to what is our target, because
yes,
I've had that conversation with teachers this past year or so. Like, they want to provide that actionable feedback, but it's like they're looking at everything, like the whole thing, instead of like maybe, and we've discovered that together, focusing in, like Melissa says, what are your learning goals? Like, what's the thing that we've been spending time with? What instruction did you receive in class? So that's the thing you want to be providing examples on. So thanks, Melissa.
Thank you. Anyone else have an idea? When you're sitting on this end, giving you 5 seconds seems like 5 minutes. So, I won't belabor the point. But what you can do to this, you need more examples. You need to pull more examples from the text about, I'm going to say bears because it's in the corner, about this specific bear habitat. You just need to be a little bit more specific with your feedback, a little bit more targeted. Okay, feedback number 2. Now, there are a lot on this one, but you'll get the point. Good job, nice work, way to go, superb, awesome. I'm so pleased with your work. Awesome or cut?
I see a lot of cuts. Someone's like, that's personal. No.
Yes, it is. But I mean, if we're honest, how many of us are guilty of doing that? I mean, I've been guilty of doing that. I have. I hate to say it, but I have. But, I mean, take like if on a spelling test, for instance, what else are you going to say other than nice work, awesome, good job, you made 100, whatever. But in a writing assessment, you need to, or not assessment, I'm sorry, in a piece of writing or in math, or, you need to be a little bit more specific. Doesn't matter what grade or what you do teach. You need to be more specific in the feedback so that they understand exactly what you're trying to say and what they need to do to reach their goal. So I could take good work, for instance, and instead of saying just good work, I could say good work for your use of using precise vocabulary in this particular sentence or in this paper. I could really see it in my own mind's eye if it was, a piece of literature. But, there are ways, these are redeemable, you just need to add a little bit more to it. Okay, third piece. I was confused about who was talking in the dialogue you wrote in paragraph 2. Hashtag awesome or hashtag cut?
Seeing some awesomes come through.
Mm-hmm. This one is much more targeted and much more specific. Number one, I was confused. And what was I confused about? The dialogue and in that particular paragraph. So it is very targeted and it is specific. It's actionable. It's user-friendly. It's in such a way that the student would understand and we should be able to do something about it. Okay, moving on to number 4. Oh, here we go. You did that wrong. This is a weak paper. You got a C on your evaluation. I'm disappointed with your poster. Now, I'm not guilty of these, guys. I might have been guilty of the good work, but I'm not guilty of these.
Like immediately cut. Tracy, I think, was like, no, why would you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, really. I would hope, yeah, cut. All right.
I love Scott's reaction. Hashtag obliterate. Yes.
Yeah.
Well said from the principal. Yeah.
But yeah. But are any of these redeemable? Could I tweak and make a difference and be able to use a portion of this?
I say you got to see on your evaluation, and here's why. Maybe you could rework this and we'll readdress and maybe adjust your grade accordingly.
Oh, good. I like that.
Yeah, Linda, I see some folks chiming in on chat as well. They're doing a good job of remembering what we talked about earlier. Like if the point is not to just slam somebody or praise them with nothing connected to that actual academic behavior, like if you tell me I did a good job or if I did a bad job, like on what? Like how, like you said, Linda, if it's supposed to be actionable, how's that supposed to impact my next moves as a writer or a student? It seems like, yeah, I see a lot of comments you got to see because, so I think that's great that we're able to see, even if you take like a portion of it, let's connect it to some action, something that we can do to improve that behavior.
So even though these are they're negative, but they are redeemable and could be used. Now let's turn the tables on you guys for a little while, just to be fair. This is about teachers. I feel your lesson was interactive, well-placed, and engaging for the students. Would this be awesome or would you cut it?
We're seeing several awesomes come through, Linda.
Okay.
Oh, and Tracy says, that's cool. I would still want to know what parts were engaging though.
Bingo. That's what I was hoping for. Yes, it is. I mean, yeah, it's affirming, oh, my lesson was interactive. It was well paced and it was engaging. But where was it interactive? When was it well paced? And what was engaging for the students? So as it is, I think would need to cut it, but we could definitely improve upon it. So, and we do have to get that feedback on occasion for ourselves, and it's not always easy, but so here we are. Whether you're in a national park, you're close to home, or as in life, there are always paths less traveled. And sometimes it's scary to travel that path that's less worn or never been walked on at all. But I've discovered that this is where I grow, become brave, and sometimes I even shine. So I think Robert Frost said this well when he said, I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So let's look at this surprise avenue of feedback, teacher to teacher. So, and I like this quote that I found while researching that said the most valuable resource that all teachers have is each other. Without each other, our growth is limited to our own perspectives. And there is a video from Edutopia I'd like for you to watch to see how this particular school handles doing teacher-to-teacher feedback. Ah, wrong one. Sorry, guys. Let's see if it'll do it now. Yeah. Everybody cross their fingers.
The student organized it from greatest to least before he graphed it.
Oh, that is interesting.
This one's with counting by 6s, 12s, 5s.
Because our teachers look at student work, they really see what students are thinking and how they're expressing their understanding from the classroom, and they're better able to guide and facilitate a deeper level of student learning.
So it's two ways of them being able to think about creating this graph.
At Two Rivers, we really care about our whole community as learners.
So what do we do so far?
That includes not just our students, but also our staff.
The reason that we look at student work is to help teachers become better teachers. Student work is the expression of what kids are learning. And so if you're thinking about how am I doing as a teacher, there's your evidence.
So when you guys get with your partner, you're going to work to create a what type of graph? Bar graph. We just started doing bar graphs with them last week, so it's relatively new. Make sure your name is on it, please. The process of looking at the work will really help me as I'm planning the rest of this sequence of lessons.
One of the most powerful things that we do is a looking at student work protocol.
Taryn today brought a set of student work. The group of teachers and I took a look at that work to give her some insights into what do her kids really understand around this technical skill of creating a graph.
So the task that they have was Miss Cynthia is ordering new shirts for next year. The protocol starts where I give a very short introduction to what the work is. How can Miss Cynthia create a graph to represent the data about the different colored shirts she ordered? And what you'll see is the chart with the different colored shirts, and there's different numbers, so it was differentiated. The team looks at the work, and they look at it silently, just thinking about how they would respond to the task, and then looking at how students did. After that, there is about 5 minutes where the presenter is silent and you're just talking about things you notice and things you wonder about the task.
I noticed that there's 3 different sets of numbers.
I noticed that in one of the sets, it's only 2-digit numbers. I wonder which students got which sets of numbers.
After about 5 minutes, we shift the protocol to comments where there is analysis, and we can start to put our own judgments into what we are seeing with the data. I feel like what the kids needed to grapple with in this problem was really around scale.
Look at how different they look based on what the scale that they chose was.
I feel like there's this profound vulnerability in being silent while your team looks at the work that you're doing. It removes you from the conversation so that you can really focus on what people are saying because you're listening.
Following that, there is a discussion. I think what was happy for me to hear was you guys noticed what we wanted them to grapple with was the scale on this one. That's the part where we really talk about, okay, well, what are the next steps that students need? Thinking about the story, if we look at Matthew's and then someone else, it all of a sudden looks like way more shirts were ordered.
It does.
If you're designing a graph to tell a story of something, you know, scale matters, right?
I feel like I get concrete feedback and concrete steps to take. I like the ideas that you guys said. What is the story like? What do we want people to think about it? So I really like the idea of graphing telling a story. What else could that graph be telling me? So I think that's going to be our focus. Has anyone ever thought about stories in math before? I don't know if you're going to believe me, but the bar graphs you create tell a story.
getting feedback is daunting at first, but after people experience it, they relish it.
This is how much people like me, This is how much people like me.
The same way students get ideas from each other, I get a lot of ideas from my colleagues. I absolutely love it and I need it.
Absolutely love that video. As a teacher, when I was in the classroom, I'm not sure if I would have been that comfortable sitting during that protocol. But I'm, as that teacher said, I think it would have been very helpful. And I love when she says at the very end, the same way students get ideas from other teachers, I get ideas from colleagues. And she said, I absolutely love it and I need it. So just that's a thing you might want to keep in mind. Now, the last thing we're going to look at are tech tools. And I'm trying to eye the time, so I'm going to move right along. We're going to look at 3 different tech tools. You may have heard of these. You may have even used some of 1 or 2 of them. We're going to look at Floop, Screencastify, and Mote. And I have a little short video with each one. And on your participants guide, I gave you a section where you could write some things in as we go through in order to just a few little things to help you remember something about it. So as we're looking at these, I'd like for us to keep in mind those 7 keys to effective feedback that we looked at earlier and how this tool could help me to feed forward, remember, to feed up to clear learning goals, feed forward next steps, and then how will this tool help me to operate in the process level of feedback so that they can work on it and still be able to gain something from it. So the first one is Floop. I love the name. It's fun to say, Floop, Floop.
Feedback is the #1 driver of student learning outcomes. As a high school teacher, I know this from research and experience. However, I have 150 students. Every day I was taking home a huge stack of papers. It was impossible for me to give my students the feedback they needed when they needed it. And when my students received feedback, they didn't know how to use it. They would take one look and toss it into the recycling. So we created Floop. Floop helps teachers give meaningful feedback 4 times faster. And even better, it teaches students to actively engage with their feedback. Here's how it works. When students are stuck or have completed their assignments, they can submit their work through Floop. I can see my students' work as soon as it's been submitted. I can add comments, questions, and next steps. When I see similar student mistakes, I can drag and drop previous comments. From there, the feedback is sent instantly to my students, and we can continue the conversations in Floop or in person. Students can revise and resubmit their work, helping them grow from feedback. Floop also helps me run a peer review on any assignment. The peer review is anonymous for students, so students won't know whose work they're seeing, and they won't know who gave them feedback. Students can view and give feedback on 5 work samples in just half a class period. The process is scaffolded to build their feedback literacy skills. And I get a summary of the peer review as it happens. Lastly, students can assess themselves, giving them agency over their own learning. Floop solves one of the biggest challenges for middle school and high school teachers who often have 100 to 200 students. Now, every student can get the timely feedback they need from their teacher, their peers, and themselves. Floop was built by a strong team of current educators and refined in our own classrooms. Join the feedback movement today at floopedu.com.
No, we don't want it to go again. So I'll give you a few seconds to take any notes you might have about Floop. Something I did like about it is that it's teacher created and it's been vetted in the classroom. Okay, our second one is called Mote.
This episode of Mote Minutes, we're going to look at how you can create your first mote. The first thing you need to do is highlight some text and open up a comment. In the pop-up comment box that then appears, go ahead and tap on the Mote icon and accept the relevant permissions. Once you've done this, you're ready to go. So navigating back to the comment box, if you just go ahead and tap once again on the Mote icon, it will automatically start to record everything that you're saying. When you finish leaving your feedback, tap again on the Mote icon. All that's left for you to do now is to post a comment. This is where the magic of using Mote really happens. Anyone with the Chrome extension installed now has a clickable card that allows for playback, pausing, and easy rewind of the feedback. No one has to leave the file, it all happens in the same window. That's all for now. Please subscribe for more in this series of Mote Minutes.
Okay, so I'll give you a couple minutes to, or a couple of seconds rather, can't give you a couple minutes, don't have enough.
Linda, I'm not sure if you can see chat, but there, and I'll ask this as well, if all of these tools are free, these tech tools.
I think a portion of them is free, but if you want, a more premium version, I believe you'd have to pay. Okay, and we'll move on to number 3.
This episode of Mote Minute.
I love his voice. I just wanted to hear it again. So the third one is Screencastify, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. You may have even used.
So how else does Screencastify fit into the classroom on an everyday basis? Well, one great way to use it has to do with feedback. And if you've ever assigned traditional homework and have graded it and given it back to students, you probably know where that homework ends up a lot of times: in the trash. And a lot of times we get to leaving those comments and leaving that feedback on those papers and giving it back to students, and they don't end up doing anything with it. And so one way to provide more meaningful feedback and more personal feedback is to offer it through a screencast video. So instead of grading students' work and writing comments on a piece of paper, what if we try this? Let's say that a student is working on a slide presentation and we have some feedback for them. What we can do is fire up a Screencastify recording. Start recording the screen and recording with the microphone. Even use a webcam so that the student can see your face and say, okay, I'm looking through your work and here's some things that I'd like to suggest. I'd like to say that this picture looks good, but we need to add some text. And so what I would do is, and so then you just proceed to give feedback. If you're using something like this, like a Google Slides presentation, you can even add the comment while you're talking. So add text. And then that way they've got this visual reminder along with the screencast video. And then once you're done with the feedback, all you have to do is just share that recording with the student, either through your learning management system, through a private comment in Google Classroom. Just grab that Google Drive link to the screencast video and get it to the student. Or you could even drop that Google Drive link into a comment in their work. And so by doing that, you get more personal, individual feedback. It's almost like sitting shoulder to shoulder, side by side with a student, which really is one of the most effective ways of giving students feedback.
And I'll give you a second or two to write down any notes you might have on that one.
So how else?
I don't know why that keeps doing that, but it irritates me. John's back there laughing at me. So as we were digging through this, and I keep saying we because Brandy and I worked on this, we did find a little bit of research about audio and video feedback, and it was positive. Students have positive perceptions of audio and video feedback. They were motivated by the audio and the video feedback. They perceived it better than written or oral feedback. They actually preferred it. They loved it when the teachers actually made little mistakes and they didn't want to, get the perfect version. They liked the outtake version a little bit better. And it was very effective as written feedback. So some good reasons to use some of these, but keep in mind, just good old paper pencil, sometimes the best way to go. Last thing we're going to do is I'm going to, I think, let's see. Okay, Candace is dropping this in the chat, and this is an active document that everyone can work on. If you get a chance, go back and watch that video. The man is hilarious. And number 6 is it's great. It's spot on. So on this document, you'll see over on the left that the 3 video ones that we just did, they're in blue, so you can get a link to them. Just tell us what your feedback is, like if it's tag, like the example, why is it useful, how do you use it, what's helpful, and then what's a personal application that you might want to use or would use it with. This is just a living document that we can continue to work on and share and go back and look upon, and we may even find something that will help us out. So I'll give you, considering it is 11:43, I'm going to give you a very short amount of time to work on that. But again, you can go back and work on it later as well. Again, this will be online that you can add to anytime you want to, and then go back and refer to it to see what you find new on there. And in the interest of time, because I want to honor your time, I'll go ahead and we're getting to the conclusion. So here we are. We've reached the end of our journey together, and the view is beautiful. I'd love to go there. But I'd just like to ask a question. Which type of feedback are you most willing to give a try? Since in the interest of time, if you want to type it in the chat, you can unmute or just your own reflection. What's something that you are interested in trying?
I would definitely use Floop, especially grading your book copy from my business classes or even my IT classes. I could see how that would save time and be able to give a lot more, I guess, objective feedback for them. So
great. I think that one would be interesting. And as I said before, I love the fact that it's created by teachers. So I feel like there's a little bit more reason for me to use it. Did anyone else share anything, Candace?
I see tag and Floop in here a couple of times, and I think some folks had mentioned, more, that they appreciate like the quick formative checks a lot of times.
Yeah, definitely. So here we are, back to our good old friend, is feedback. Now, you've gone through the whole process of this webinar, presentation, whatever. And so after the things we talked about today, and after investigating that Padlet and different things, would you consider, and you don't have to speak, I just want you to answer this for yourself, is feedback friend or foe now? Which would you be more apt to think of it?
Okay, we made some friends and some best friends today.
I've accomplished my goal. Thank you. Good. Yeah. I always looked at it as, oh my gosh, I've got to grade all these, and I really looked at it the wrong way. I really should have. I wish I'd invested more time in learning more about feedback at the time. So I'd like to leave you with this quote. So the purpose of feedback in the learning process is to improve a student's performance. It's definitely not put a damper on it. So the ultimate goal of feedback is to provide students with an I can do this attitude. And that's what I always wanted to leave my students with. We may not know everything right now, but we can learn everything that we need to. And I wanted them to know that they can do it. So I'll turn it over to Miss Candace.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I think John, if he's all over it, man. He's got that link already in the chat for you. I know there were a couple of questions about receiving a document, a certificate for attendance today. And even if you did have some logging in, some signing in issues, that will take care of it. But thank you guys so much for joining us for feedback or foe. I'm glad that no one said enemy or anything crazy at the end. So if that's true, I'm really pleased that you guys were able to join us and that was your takeaway on this. Just take just a minute to take care of that survey, and I'm going to take just a minute to take care of all the feedback that you guys are hearing as far as sound goes back here. Thank you.
So our journeys has ended together, but your journey will continue, and I hope that you can take some of these pointers from this presentation into next year, and that you will have a wonderful summer and rest of your day, and that next school year is normal. Everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Hey, Linda, while they are logging off, and I might have 30 whole seconds of silence here, I did want to mention that last document, I think it was the feedback tools one, the streamlining feedback with tech tools. You and I had checked out the links, and I was able to open that link, but it was because I'm in network. So just whenever you get a chance, you might want to go in and just adjust that link, that share link. Yeah, I've done it. We've all done it. But I think Candy and maybe someone else, they had pointed that out. So thank you guys for checking those links for us and letting us know so that we get a chance to update that for access for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.